Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to review the Netflix docu-series Ladies First, a story of women in hip-hop. And this was directed by Hannah Beachler, Rashim Nijon, and Dream Hampton. And the synopsis is: a timeline of the evolution of hip-hop unfolds over 4 episodes, centered around the women who made it all happen. I was introduced to this docu-series through all the drama that's surrounding it with the absence of Nicki Minaj, I guess, as one of the interviewees in this. That's how I first heard about it, and then I went on Netflix and saw it was on there, and I went to watch it. I don't know, I think I did see a response from somebody who was a part of this series about why they didn't include her. It was more like something to do with copyright stuff. I don't know, but I just never understand with these documentaries why people get so pissy about stuff like this. Like, some people are not available. Like, they're not available, or they have contracts, or I don't think that these platforms purposely leave people off like a Nicki Minaj. That's what I would say. A Nicki and Missy. I mean, Cardi wasn't in it, Lil' Kim wasn't in it, Foxy Brown wasn't in it. And I wasn't necessarily surprised that they weren't. Maybe they weren't available. Like, I've seen so many docu-series on hip-hop and documentaries on hip-hop, and there aren't certain people involved. Even with this, 50th year of hip-hop with the BET Awards, there were so many people missing from that, including Nicki Minaj, including a 50 Cent or whoever. And I just take it as they weren't available. And honestly, I don't think we talk enough about how some of these people like turn down these things. And this was something that was created by Black women, and I honestly feel like if it was some bigger names on this, some of these women would have signed on. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But so around here, I like to start with my cons, then my pros, and this time I'm gonna I always end with a rating, but I'm also going to talk about my personal favorite female rappers that I've listened to over the years and who I listen to today. I only really had 2 cons with the series. I like that they discussed the topic of colorism, but I wish that they would have went a little bit deeper. It felt like they just scratched the surface on it, and it felt like they spoke about, okay, the music videos had nothing but lighter skinned women in them, and then they spoke about kind of like the personal stories of like a Tierra Whack. But I wish they would have went further into how it really affects these women in their careers, and how we'll see like a female rapper, 2 female rappers who are similar, but one's dark skin, one's light skin, and the lighter skin one is supported more. And then sometimes just the lighter skin one is not as, what everyone call, talented as the darker skin one, darker skin woman. There were just moments like, I'm sure they were never gonna get into this, but like Lotto's, I guess also them speaking to the light skin women about not colorism that they face, showing how these women also benefit and how some of them have kind of ignored or been silent on this situation. Because like I said, with Lotto, her original name was Mulatto, and she got a lot of flack for it, and she never really spoke about it. It was always just, oh, it's just a name, and oh, I'm taking the power out of it, and things like that. And even with Ice Spice, people have brought up colorism to her, and she's young, but it's like kind of like, yeah, whatever, and also Cash Doll, she's dark skinned, but I remember her being like, I never faced colorism because I was pretty and I was just like the top stripper at the club I was at, so I never dealt with it. And then she came out maybe a few months after that, I was like, oh, I finally dealt with it in the studio with this guy or whatever. So I just wish they would have went a little deeper with that. Also, like the way that in some of the other sections they broke down the lyrics from a lot of these men or from these women. I wish with the colorism, like they really spoke about like the fact that somebody like a Lil Wayne was always talking about red bone, yellow bone. We've seen songs about this, and even stuff like Danny Lay's song Yellow Bone. So I think that would have been important. It just felt very quick. The same with just body types. I felt like that was really quick. Whether it's you know, bigger women not doing as well or almost being non-existent in hip-hop, to even with what Coi Leray has dealt with, and this double standard of you don't get your body done, you don't look perfect, people aren't supporting you, but then you get it done and then people ridicule you. So yeah, I just wish they went deeper on that. I will say that it felt very safe a bit on the opinions from a lot of the women, because I know Hulu had their thing on hip hop, and in the City Girls episode, it was just about sexuality and women in hip hop. And I know when they interviewed Rhapsody, she kind of had something to say like, it's a little too much. I support these girls, but it's too much. But when it came to this, it was just kind of like, hey, everything's all good. And I'm glad that, you know, there's nothing messy in it. But I would have liked to hear what either the older women or the younger women had to say about some of this stuff. Because obviously, I think like Chica said, you know, I support it, I like it, but it's like the only thing right now. So that being said, I'll get into my pros. I had a lot of pros. Just kind of keeping on that subject, I like that they didn't get into respectability politics. I really feel like that's a newer thing now, where we're not like shaming one type of rapper to put another rapper up, or we're not insulting one rapper to uplift other rappers. And even though I think in general that's what's going on, I like that in this docu-series they didn't do that. I personally am a person that I listen to all types of hip-hop, and I definitely listen to all types of female hip-hop. Actually, I don't. I listen to a lot of City Girls type rap. Honestly, that's just where I'm at right now. So, but I like that we got to see all types of, you know, female rappers from back in the day till now. Even though I kind of feel like with the ones back in the day, we mostly had like the MC Lights and the Roxanne Shantays and Queen Latifah's. Like I said before, you know, Lil' Kim wasn't in it, Foxy Brown wasn't in it, Trina wasn't in it, but we did get to see prior interviews from them, which I thought was cool. I think that all of it is legit and all of it is important. I do think that it's like this weird thing where it's like I defend the Cash Dolls and the Lottos because I feel like they get so much flack for honestly doing the same thing that these men do, and just, you know, being who they want to be, like being sexual or whatever, but at the same time they're also very popular, they're being supported, you know, like the Chicas and the Tierra Wax aren't being supported, and it's like they get this respect, you respect them but you're not supporting them, you know. So it's like I just like that there was space for all of these women and all their backstories. One thing I liked is that I felt like they spent enough time for each woman's story. I thought that was pretty cool. It wasn't too long, it wasn't too short, and we just got to see how they started, where they came from. I thought it was really interesting to see like kind of like the class situation, how not all of them came from the hood, but not all of them came from the suburbs. Some were from the country, some did struggle, some didn't struggle, and them just having to kind of navigate like, oh, well, what do I talk about, and you know, how do I become successful, and what do I do? Yeah, and of course just seeing the women from back in the day. Like I didn't know a lot about Sha Rock. Like I've always watched documentaries and things, and I've always seen her name and seen her, but I never really like retained information on her. I definitely knew about Roxanne Shante because I watched the scripted movie, but I don't know if y'all remember Beef from back in the day. It was about beef and hip hop, and there was like different, you know, I don't even know what you would call it, like different tapes, and it would play on BET. And I remember when they first started, it was like they started with the 80s, you know, like the late 70s and the 80s. And I remember hearing about Roxanne Shante and her, I guess, beef with UTFO, but then like Roxanne Shante versus the real Roxanne. And I was always confused by that, but I knew a lot about her. So, but it was just cool seeing Rod Digga and Bahamadia. I wish they would have shown her backstory. And of course Queen Latifah and Da Brat and everybody. I also learned some things, like I didn't know Flavor Unit was a real thing from Queen Latifah and all the artists she signed. I forgot all about the song Self-Destruction. I used to love that song. Also, you know what I thought was really good was showing how explicit the 80s were, especially with men, because I feel like there's this weird thing where when people argue about the good old days, right, like 80s specifically, you know, there's different conversations. Like sometimes it's like, okay, hip-hop today isn't as authentic as it was back in the day. Hip-hop today is too materialistic. There's like fake gangsters or whatever. But one of the things I feel like we talk about a lot is like misogyny and sexism, and sometimes I feel like people act like that started like in the 90s, and it's like, no, it was in the 80s. Like hearing the way that they spoke about Roxanne Shante while she was a teenager was like disgusting. And honestly, I had looked this up on Twitter, like the docu-series, and people were bringing up so many lyrics from a lot of these artists, like an NWA and KRS-One, and a lot of those lyrics were sick. Not even just like worse than what they said about Roxanne Shante. Like it was some weird, disturbing stuff that I'm like, and y'all have something to say about WAP? Y'all have something to say about WAP? Like this stuff is 10 times worse than WAP. I thought that was interesting, even though I knew about some of it, like the NWA. I never liked NWA. Really, I've never liked them. But just people really need to go back and listen to a lot of these lyrics. Like they were really dark. I also like that they had a section about queer Black female rappers. I guess I'm in the dark. I didn't know that Queen Latifah came out. Like, of course, I was like everybody else, like, but I didn't know she came out. Like, I was like, I mean, I don't honestly feel like she officially came out, but whatever. But I do like that they spoke about that, because that's a big thing now, to where, you know, back in the day, these women, it was a hush-hush thing. And I'm sure a lot of them were either scared to come out, or some of them maybe didn't want to, but now we have that space where there's support. But, you know, I will say with queer female rappers is obviously mountains different. Is way different than gay male rappers, you know, because, you know, when you have like a Young M.A., not to say that it wasn't difficult for her to come out, but, or to be a gay rapper, but, you know, she's also rapping about the same things that male rappers are rapping about, so it's kind of like she gets a little bit of a pass. Even when you get into, like, you know, like, I know Cardi B is bisexual, Dream Doll is bisexual, like Azalea Banks is bisexual, or Princess Nokia, and it's still a thing of, you know, you're talking about women, so there's still not like a respect for it, but it's way easier than what like a Lil Nas X would be going through, or Saucy Santana. Oh, that's another thing. That's what I was gonna say. How can I forget this? D Barnes. It was very good seeing her. I was so glad that we saw her. I was so glad that we saw her story, and that it was more than just her assault, but that they also brought up her assault, you know, and just what she contributed to hip-hop, and then what she had to go through from one of the biggest hip-hop artists, you know, in the world, Dr. Dre. I mean, he's not like relevant right now, but we know throughout hip-hop, and I was just glad that they gave her a platform to speak. And I just every time this comes up, I'm like, yeah, put this stuff out there. And I think that's why I'm a person that's not like so gung-ho about cancel culture being a thing, because I really don't think it's a thing. I think that the people who are really being canceled out here were not supporting or defending. We're supporting the people who are millionaires and billionaires, who are just getting dragged on Twitter, or just being held accountable, or just being called out, like a Dr. Dre, you know. Ain't nothing canceled about him. He is a billionaire, while D Barnes I don't know if she's still struggling, but I know at one point she was struggling, you know. So I think it's good to highlight her story, and the fact that, you know, there's been so much violence against women in hip-hop and black women in hip-hop, and then bringing up, you know, Megan Thee Stallion and the Tory Lanez thing, and just the response, you know, from black people in general and people in the society and black men, you know. So I thought it was good to highlight those stories because they're very important. Shit, you could make a whole documentary about that. So I was really glad to see D Barnes. Overall, I just thought it was a really good series. Yeah, I got through it really quickly. Yeah, I really liked it. I liked hearing about the fashion influence of the fashion designers back in the day, and I just love hearing about how the fashion designers just took nothing and made something out of it. You know, like how black people and specifically black women just put our own just style into things and just make it our own and influence the fashion world today. You know, I always say, like, especially now when you kind of look at where fashion and culture is heavily influenced by black women, and not only just black women, but like black women from the hood. You know, I feel like that's like a weird thing that we don't really discuss that much. Like, and not that all black women from the hood act or dress a certain way, but it's like, it's so glaring. It's just weird. You know, especially when you go on something like a Pretty Little Things or a Fashion Nova, and it's just obvious that all of this is from black women, and then it's made worse when the models aren't black. Most of the models aren't black, and then the people making, or like the person who's making the money off of the Fashion Novas and stuff aren't black either, and definitely aren't black women, you know. So yes, so some of my favorite female rappers. I'm a big female rapper fan. I definitely support the girls, more of the back in the day artists. Love Lil' Kim, Missy Elliott, Trina. Now this, I don't know if I would say it's back in the day, but she has been around since like at least 2004, 2005. MIA, even though I know she's on some bullshit right now, but MIA. So with the newer rappers, I love me some Dochi. I just love her look. I love her music. City Girls, specifically JT. And that was another one that I feel like they missed out on talking about her a lot, like the part where they spoke about, you know, the black women going to prison. Like, you know, obviously she wasn't there to interview, but, you know, just speaking about, because that was a big thing, her going away, and then City Girls blowing up while she was behind bars and then coming out. But then also on the colorism, because obviously both her and Young Miami are dark skinned, but Young Miami's a little bit lighter, and I find a lot of times that she is kind of featured more than JT, but JT's a way better rapper. So Lola Brooke, I love me some Lola Brooke. The group Mother Nature. See, the thing is, I have like tiers. I got 3 tiers. So I kind of have like the tier over here, which is like Ice Spice or whatever. And then the tier over here is like Mother Nature and like Tierra Whack. And then the middle tier is kind of like to me, Lola Brooke is able to kind of balance a bit, you know, between, like, she's talking her shit. Like, she's a good rapper. She has a great flow, but it's also sexual. It's also street. And so I put her in the middle. I put, like, a Nicki Minaj in the middle. I put Lotto in the middle, too. So Mother Nature, Lotto, some of my favorites, Nicki, Cardi B, Dreezy. I really like Dreezy. Princess Nokia, Young M.A., Megan Thee Stallion. I like Vicky Lowe. I like New Orleans Bound, so I listen to her. And I really like any. Like, if I could pick like a lyrical, whatever you want to call lyrical rap, I listen to her probably the most, a lot. I listen to her a lot. I love the production she chooses as well. And my problematic fave, Azalea Banks, all day, every day. Because I love house music, so she blends that together, and I think that she can rap. So I feel like I'm missing somebody. I like Foxy Brown. But yeah, and No Name, she kind of disappointed me with this last album, not going to even lie. I didn't even finish it. because whatever that one song is. I'm not about to act like I know all the references that Jay Electronica was saying, but it turned me off when I heard one part and I was like, what is going on? And I think that's why, you know, earlier I said that I listen to City Girls way more than I listen to lyrical stuff, because I have my own thing about some of these kind of lyrical artists. I think a lot of them are hypocrites. That's why I don't really get into it. Like, my whole philosophy is I would rather listen to some ratchet shit from some ratchet artists who know that they're ratchet, love to party, love to get money, and that's what they're about, instead of it being like, I'm holier than thou, or black power, communism, socialism, and then you have like anti-Semitism on your record. Like, I just, you know, that's why I'm not like a huge like Kendrick and J. Cole type fan. Like, I think that they're very intelligent, and I like the artistry of like a Kendrick Lamar, but I'm like, how much are you for black liberation when you're still disrespecting black women? So that's why it's still to this day, I listen to Playboi Carti more than I listen to J. Cole. So tell me what you thought below, what you thought of the docu-series, if you cared that certain artists like a Nicki Minaj, or I mean, shit, Lauryn Hill wasn't in it either, you know, that they weren't included, like they didn't have a sit-down interview, because their footage of them and interviews of them were still included. But you know, how you felt about that, who are some of your favorite female hip-hop artists, what you think about the state of female hip-hop, because I don't think I really got into that. I mean, at the end of the day, as much as I like to listen to City Girls, I think I don't really blame the girls for the state of hip-hop. I blame the consumers, and I blame the production companies for not supporting, you know, the other type of artists that are out there. So but I like listening to them all. But so tell me your thoughts below. If you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe, and look forward to my next video. Thanks for watching.